Are you taking AP European History? If you are, you're in the right place. I'm John from Marco Learning. This is Tom Richey from tomrichey.net and also Marco Learning Mug Factory. Tom, how are you doing tonight?
All right, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've got breaking news. I'm all excited here in AP land because I found something on the College Board's website about this year's exams. I want to share that with everyone. I want to welcome everyone as you're coming in. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to share my screen. I'm also going to post a bunch of great information for you all in the description of this video, Tom. So I'll be linking to your channel. I'll be linking to some of the free resources we have on the Marco Learning site. That is live on our channel. As you're coming in, say hello. Let us know where you're coming from. Guys, I want to show you this document. This is from the College Board's website. I will be posting the link in the description for you. But this is an important thing because we know that this year's exams are going to have paper and pencil. We're going to have digital. Couple things we've just learned. And Tom, I want to get your opinion on this. One of the first things I want to show you is this nifty tool. This is an animated part of the slide deck. And you can see what you can do when you are taking a document-based question on the digital AP Euro exam. You can type a really meaningful question like, what does this mean? Over highlighted text. That's College Board's recommended question. What's this mean? But this annotation will let you, as you're moving through all the documents, and annotate and highlight. Tom, how important is annotation and highlighting for you on the DBQ and on these texts?
Now, I would say that normally I would say that highlighting is worthless. There's really, I've yet to see a research study that shows that to be useful. But at the same time, in this case, highlighting may be less cumbersome than the annotating. Like typically, I encourage students to annotate on the sides of the documents. First response to this tool, though, it looks like you're actually going to have to pull up the annotations. So it may be a little bit better just to highlight key passages, but at the same time, the annotations are necessary in a way because that's where you have a chance to really react to the document in your own words, and you're able to, put your own words into the DBQ instead of what's in the documents. Now, I would presume that the College Board is going to give us a chance to play around with this a little bit. Thankfully, my own students are going to be doing paper pencil, but I'm looking forward to the demo. But I would say, yeah, in person, I would never counsel a student to highlight, but in this case, it might be a good way to go through the documents and do that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Tom. And I think, yeah, it's sort of, you can, if your students are like my students, they're like highlighting every line of the textbook for no reason. But we had this struggle with the digital exam last year in 2020, which was like, what are you going to write on the page? Can you print things out? We don't seem to have any proof that you're going to be able to print anything out. And there is this disabling printing thing you need to do. One thing you can see is lockdown mode, College Board, scary words, like you are locked down. You've got to shut down all those other applications before testing begins. No Grammarly, no looking things up. Officially, this is not an open book, open note exam.
All right.
Right.
No way anybody's going to figure out that one.
Now, John, us to move on. No, go ahead.
Now, John, are we hearing that you're not going to be able to print the documents under any circumstances? Is that what we're hearing?
No, I can't confirm that for a fact. What I can say is that in the 100-page guide that I went through, and guys, that video is on our channel. There's a in that 100-page guide, it said you're going into lockdown mode. You're disabling everything, and the presumption is, my assumption is you can't print, but I can't prove that. I wasn't sure whether this tool existed.
And they may, that this tool may be something where they say that printing is not necessary since they provided you with this tool. So we don't have explicit confirmation on that. So we'll see what happens.
That's right. We'll wait. We'll post we'll be posting on his Instagram account at Tom Richey, or on his Twitter account. We'll be posting on the Marco account, all kind of updates when we get them. This software will be available for testing. It'll look like this on the 8th of April. So you guys will be able to get into the practice, the exam setup, and you'll be able to actually practice questions. But one quick thing I want to show you, Tom, before we finish our breaking news from the Marco Learning News Studios, is this cryptic little message. So this is, again, from the College Board's website, and look at what it says. It says, you're responsible for pacing yourself. Now that's not true in multiple choice. They're going to have a timer. You see the timer up here, right? But it looks like from this, we recommend, you are advised to spend, see what it says there? You're advised to spend 15 minutes reading for the DBQ, 45 for the DBQ, 40 minutes for those 2 short answers. So looks like the College Board, and I'll take this down, it looks like the College Board is saying, hey, when you're doing the digital version of the exam with no LEQ and 2 short answers, you got to manage your own flow of time. Yeah.
Yeah, now this thing, yeah, that just, I mean, when you think about 2 SAQs having 40 minutes for 2 SAQs and combining the DBQ with that, now I believe that they're going to norm the digital exams differently in paper pencil, but they're, you know, making this, it really seems like there's no comparison in the amount of time that, you know, I mean, you're going to be able to spend a lot more time on the DBQ. Now, another thing, from what I was able to see from whatever, you know, snippets that were released, you know, to some people, it seemed that the documents last year on that exam tended to be shorter than in paper exams. So that's another thing I'm curious about, you know, will the, you know, which I would presume that they're going to try to standardize those this time, since it's, you know, it's a little more established. But that's, yeah, certainly. But one thing, yeah, on one hand, we want to tell students that it certainly would not be fair to put this neck and neck with what paper pencil students are going to have to do with a DBQ and an LEQ in the same amount of time. But at the same time, these are going to be put in 2 different boxes, as far as the paper pencils are going to be normed a certain way, and then these are going to be normed a certain way. So, you know, that's one thing just to be clear for students who are thinking, well, this isn't fair because I'm taking this on paper pencil and I have to do this. So just something to keep in mind there.
Yeah, Tom, I think that's great advice. I think that's a good reminder for everyone. Focus on what we can control, right? We can't control what College Board is going to do with the norming process of the exams. We can study well. So, Tom, what I'm going to do, first of all, I want to welcome all the people who come in. Say hello in the chat. If you like this video, press that like button. I'll be providing links as Tom is talking. I'll help with some questions, but I look forward to learning from you, Tom. I'm going to hand it over to you. And thank you so much for spending your Thursday night with us here at Marco Learning.
All right. Always a pleasure. Now, one thing, John, I'm going to go ahead, and I've been working on this Euro Madness bracket. It is still March. And so I'm going to put this in I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat. We're going to go ahead. Anybody who's here, we got a few people here now. So Euro Madness, the Monarchs. Okay. So this is going to take you to a Google form. If you just go ahead and highlight that, and it'll take you to this Google form where you've got 8 matchups between monarchs. I'll show you what I'm working on right now, actually getting getting all of this together. But let's see. So when this is finished, what we've got here, we've got the bracket of monarchs, we've got the bracket of philosophers, then we're going to have the brackets of innovators and leaders. Okay, so to be in this bracket, you've got to be a monarch, and then over here it's going to be 16 philosophers. So I thought I'd give this a test drive tonight, and we're going to do this on Google Forms. So at the end of the broadcast, we'll see who is who's winning here. We got on a Twitter the other day, or last night, whenever that was, that I went ahead and got my Twitter followers, at Tom Richey, at Marco Learning, if you're on Twitter or Instagram, TikTok, anything like that. I'm pretty much consistent throughout. But with this, I've got the four seeds, the first 4 seeds on the Monarchs are Louis XIV, Elizabeth I, Peter the Great, and Frederick the Great. Now, it killed me to see Peter the Great 3rd seed, but Twitter did put Elizabeth I did edge out Peter the Great. Now, Louis XIV is a very heavy 1st seed, and in the 1st round, he's going to be going against Louis XVI, the 16th seed. It was a really tough call between Louis XVI and Charles II of Spain for the 16th seed. But I think, Louis kind of won out on that. But, it's something I just want y'all to go through it. Let's see what y'all come up with. It should be something kind of fun just to see. Now, again, the brackets are segmented into, into these categories, and I'm going to be putting this out on my Instagram, again, at Tom Richey, at Marco Learning. We're going to be doing some of these face-offs, but I thought, let's go ahead and try it tonight and see what the audience says about these 8 monarch matchups. So I'm really looking forward to what, to what y'all are going to come up with over there. And that's something more than likely, once this broadcast is finished, we'll put this in the description so that we can, you can have a link to that. If you're watching this later, you can go and add your 2 cents on who you think the best monarchs are in these matchups. Now, the next link that I want to share with y'all, and again, we'll put these in the chat, and later on, I'm sure somebody will put these into the description, but of course these are, this is an open link anyway, is marcolearning.com/AP Euro, which that's something you can do right on your own if you're watching the broadcast later. And let me go ahead and show you what's here. Now, this is something we kind of add to little by little here. We're getting some study guides for, right now it's pretty much, we've got some study guides for the first 2 units. So we see here, we've got Italian Renaissance, Northern Renaissance, the printing press, the new monarchies, the age of exploration, and then we've got the wars of religion and the Catholic Reformation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and let's take a look at our Catholic Reformation study guide. Now, we want to note that the Catholic Reformation is also referred to as the Counter-Reformation. These describe the same phenomenon, and there's a little bit, even though the terms mean the same thing, it's a little bit nuanced, because on one hand, you've got the Counter-Reformation. Now, that is against the Reformation, okay? So the Catholic Church is pushing back against the Reformation. Then you've got the Catholic Reformation, which really, as far as a nuance, is more like the internal reformation of the Catholic Church from within to make itself a more, a more viable institution. Because for the first time, the Catholic Church finds itself in competition with these Protestant churches. And we've got Adam Smith in our bracket, either as a philosopher, I think Adam Smith, we've gotten the innovators bracket. Some of them, there was a little bit, it's like, do we put him in philosophers or do we put him in innovators? And I forget which one, but Adam Smith is in one of the brackets. Adam Smith goes into this idea that competition is beneficial. Of course, we see that same idea in the 19th century with social Darwinism, that competition is beneficial, and at the end of the day, it elevates everyone. Okay, so the Catholic Church is really, for the first time in a struggle for its life. And we see that the Catholic Church, the Catholic Reformation, the church is not only opposing Protestantism, but also reinvigorating itself from within. So noting that this is also the Counter-Reformation. The Catholic Reformation describes the Catholic Church's response to Protestantism and its own reforms to reduce corruption and revive spirituality among the Catholic faithful. The establishment of the Jesuit order, the Council of Trent, and the spiritual writings of Teresa of Avila contributed to a revival of Catholicism in Europe. Okay, so these are some things. You get an overview. When did it happen? A few decades after. I mean, the Catholic Church is kind of slow to respond. Now, one thing to note here is that the Catholic Church is an institution, okay? So large institutions, they tend to respond with less agility than these little Reformation movements that are popping up. They took the offensive. The Catholic Church for a little while didn't really know how to respond. But by 1540, the Catholic Church is responding to the Reformation. Now, remember, both internally and externally, both combating Protestantism and reforming itself from within. We go on to some key terms. First of all, we want to understand the Jesuits. Now, the Jesuits are one of many new religious societies, religious orders that are founded during this time. Other religious orders are reformed, okay? But the Society of Jesus, this Catholic religious order, was established by Ignatius of Loyola in order to oppose Protestantism through education and spiritual warfare. They're doing this, they educate Jesuits. The Jesuits Jesuits go and they debate Protestants. Okay, so for example, one painting that comes up a lot when we think about applying art to European history, the delivery of the keys. Okay, so if we think about the delivery of the keys, Perugino, who was Raphael's teacher, got surpassed by a student. But if you're going to get surpassed by a student, get surpassed by Raphael, right? So, for example, if Protestants say, well, where is the Pope in the Bible? Then, these educated Catholic Jesuits, they say, well, here it is in the Bible. This is why this painting is in the Sistine Chapel, because this goes into a passage from the Gospels where Jesus tells St. Peter, he says that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not overcome it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Note, there are the keys, the literal keys there. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and what you shall bind on earth, I shall bind in heaven, and what you shall loose on earth, I shall loose in heaven. You're basically my guy, Peter. You're my vicar. I'm going to live vicariously through you, Simon Peter. And according to the Catholic Church, this is something that is in the Bible, and that Peter becomes the first bishop of Rome. And then, as the first bishop of Rome, he becomes the first pope. And therefore, since Jesus gave these keys to Peter, then Peter became the bishop of Rome. Peter can pass down the keys. It's kind of like when you sell your house, you give the keys, right? And the new people have, they've got the keys now. And so there you go. Now, it does take a few jumps here and there, but it does have its source in the Bible. Okay, so this is a great example of using art. It's not just who painted something or something like this, but noting how papal patronage, okay, that two of the greatest patrons of the arts during the Renaissance were the Medici family and the papacy. And so the papacy is patronizing the arts, but the arts are also enhancing the prestige of the papacy. And that is something that is very important here. So Perugino, it's not like just paint us something pretty. It is paint something that is going to be in the Pope's personal chapel that is going to remind people about the source of papal power. And so if we go to the Vatican, you'll note here that when we go to the Vatican, let's go ahead and just run over to Wikipedia because it's going to be easier for you to see the coat of arms of the Vatican. Okay, so when we're looking at the Pope's personal coat of arms, there are the keys. Okay, so this is the thing that the Protestants, they don't believe that the Pope has this authority. And so this is where the Catholics are on a counter-offensive here. The Council of Trent, okay, is this church council that meets during the Catholic Reformation, several sessions between 1545, 1563. Now, you don't have to know those dates right there, but just note mid-16th century, right, to determine the Catholic Church's response to Protestantism. Now, in the bottom corner of these guides, we tend to put a kind of a skill-based box here. So we see continuity and change. So how did the council result in continuity in the Catholic Church? So the council represented, first of all, an affirmation of Catholic doctrine. Now, I've got a little jingle here, okay? So first of all, we're talking about the Council of Trent, affirmation of Catholic doctrine, okay? All Catholic doctrines are true, okay? The primacy of the Pope, traditional Catholic beliefs, the position of faith and works. Catholics believe that you are saved by the grace of Jesus Christ. The believer has faith, but since the believer has free will, the believer should be demonstrating a sincere faith through their good works, where this is something that is very much, contrary to Protestantism, who say, Protestants say that this is something that, no, okay, Protestants say that it's only justification by faith alone, and then sola scriptura, only scripture. So the Council of Trent, continuity because of the affirmation of Catholic doctrine. Now, change, okay, so how did it result in change? The council represented a reformation of church practices. So while we had here counter-reformation against the Protestants, affirmation of Catholic doctrine. Here, reformation of church practices. So new religious orders, establishing seminaries to train and educate priests, banning the sale of indulgences. Now, not indulgences themselves. The Pope can, can issue indulgences, but you can't buy them. Okay, you can't buy them. So with that, when we see here Baroque art and the Catholic Reformation, I'm about to do a little SAQ with y'all, and this is something we want to make sure that we understand the link between Baroque art and the Catholic Reformation. So Baroque art was appropriated during the Catholic Reformation, and then it's also something that is appropriated by absolutists as well. So when we see here that, Bernini, who is the greatest, is the greatest Baroque sculptor out there, okay? The same guy who did Bernini's David, he did a sculpture of Louis XIV, which is outside in Paris. If you're going to the Louvre, you'll see an equestrian statue, and that is Bernini's equestrian statue of Louis XIV. I kind of ran across it on accident in Paris. I just started fangirling like crazy. I was like, oh my goodness, there it is, there it is. But then Louis XIV didn't like it. That's the funny thing. Like if Bernini made a statue for me, like an equestrian statue, I'd be like, I love this statue. Louis XIV is like, hated it. And he sends it out in the garden and actually gets them to like resculpt the head so it looks more like Apollo, or I believe Apollo, because that's like, Louis XIV's favorite Sun King god, right? But the thing is, Bernini, he sculpted the ecstasy of St. Teresa. And it's this altarpiece. And you see here where she is emotionally overwhelmed. Okay, of course, there are some other undertones of this, of this sculpture as well. Now, note something here that when we're looking at Renaissance art, it's all about symmetry, okay? Symmetry, balance, all of that. In Baroque art, you don't have the same type of symmetry or balance, but somebody showed this to me and it holds up. In Baroque art, there's usually some kind of emphasis on a diagonal line. So you notice how you can kind of, one of the Baroque kind of cheat sheets is see if you can see a diagonal line through the composition. And it's like, oh, okay, that's very, very Baroque. So this is the ecstasy of St. Teresa. And we see here that the angel is, about to, stick this, this spiritual arrow into her. And she's got a look on her face that she is just overcome with emotion and spiritual ecstasy. Now, what this is driving home is this teaching. Luther and the Protestants are like, the Catholic Church, you can't have a personal relationship with God over there. That's not spirituality. The Catholic Church says, yes, you can have an intense spirituality within the Catholic Church, okay? And so we see here that Ignatius of Loyola, here is somebody that is a very important figure, the founder of the Jesuit order, okay? So went on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land and founded the Jesuit order with Francis Xavier. And so we see here that they are combating Protestantism through education, spiritual warfare, and the observation of strict spiritual practices. And then again, Teresa of Avila was someone who brought in monastic discipline. Monastic discipline had become rather lax. And so she restored this discipline and also became revered as a mystic and spiritualist. And so as far as that goes, now a couple of other things that we see here. Anathema, this is just a word that that is a fun word. This is one of those words that it's like, hey, this is the Council of Trent, basically says this person should be cursed, this person should be burned, preferably in hell, that kind of thing. So if someone disagrees with the Council of Trent, they would constantly say, let him be anathema. Okay, just basically let him burn, let him be cursed, let him die forever. All right. So then the index of the index of prohibited books. Okay, so this is another thing that the Catholic Church is using in Catholic countries, that where they control the printing presses, they are, saying that you can't print these Protestant books. These are forbidden. So along with any Protestantism, heretical books, Pico della Mirandole and Galileo, philosophy and science, Now, not that the Catholic Church was completely against philosophy and science. Let's make a note of that nuance. But at the same time, the Catholic Church is also prohibiting books. So going through that, this is, these guides basically go into specific topics that are going to help you out. Now, we've got another one here on the wars of religion. You've got the French Wars of Religion and the 30 Years' War. These are all free to download. marcolearning.com/AP Euro. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the chat for a little bit here, and let's see if people have any questions. Okay, let's see if anybody's got any questions. Now, as far as is the AP going to test all the units this year? Okay, now, last year, they, as far as this goes, last year they said that they were going to test through 1914, basically through the beginning of the First World War, which not the First World War, but basically the test was going to cut off in 1914. And so that's what they told us. And so, but the thing is, I said, you know what, they're saying 1914, but that means the actual, so stated. Now, remember that the College Board has to appeal to colleges and universities. So they stated 1914, the exam really cut off around 1850. So 1848, 1850. I never really saw much, outside of that. So I would say that similarly this year, because a lot of people have been behind, I would wager that, and especially the College Board always has to think about fairness. So since the paper pencil people are going to be taking their exams first, I would wager that the paper pencil exam is, now I'm not saying this with any authority from the College Board. This is not from John's 100 slide deck or whatever, but I would not expect on the paper pencil for there to be a significant amount of material after World War II. Now, I could be wrong about that, okay? But it would be very surprising to me if on the paper pencil exam that there was like a Cold War or European Union DBQ or something like that. Now, could be wrong about that, but if you're wanting that sort of thing, hey, Allie, and let's see here. So does anybody have anything here? The do I think will be easier, okay? Now, this is, I think that you've got a good point, PK, that when it comes down to it, the LEQ, even though people taking the paper pencil test are like, oh, I got to do an LEQ, and they just get to do some easy SAQs. It is possible to make SAQs difficult, okay? It is possible, and it is possible not only to make SAQs difficult, but an LEQ could be easy. I think that it is very difficult. It's hard to get 6 points on an LEQ, but it's very easy to get 3 points. I mean, you really do thesis, a couple of pieces of evidence, and some evidence that your argument's based on a historical thinking skill. So I would say here, I really think that we're talking about apples and oranges when we're talking about the paper pencil versus the computerized exam. Now, remember, they're not going to be scored or normed together, anything like that. And for most of you, it's not even your decision. Your AP coordinator, I think 9 times out of 10, is going to be making that decision. Miss Rhea's class in Long Island. Oh my goodness, Mercy. It's so good for Mercy to still be here. A ray of sunshine. It is so nice to see Miss Rhea's class here. So with that, we'll go ahead and see. Okay, I don't see anything else. Now, let's see how our Euro madness with the monarchs is going. Okay, I'm curious about this. It is waiting for responses right now. Let's see. Actually, do we have 0 responses? Did it actually work, or did it not work? Maybe none of y'all filled it out, or y'all are just paying so much attention to me, right? That you don't want to miss a beat here. But as far as that goes, let me see here. I thought that I sent this out. Let me know if there's anything that if y'all aren't getting it or something like that, because I definitely want to see how y'all would rank these monarchs. Okay. So thank you, Grace. Oh my goodness. I love you too, Grace. And then there is Emily. Yes, we are on. Okay. So the Monarch Madness, is here. So if you go to this forms.google.com, that is the monarch madness. Okay, so that is the Euro madness for the monarchs. If y'all go in there, that's going to be something, and that's just basically going through 8 matchups. Would love to see what people are thinking about that. All right, so going from there, we were on the oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to interrupt to say hi to everyone. We've had some great questions here in the chat. I don't actually see the link in the chat. Could you put it here in the Zoom? And then what I'll do is I'll just drop it in, make sure.
Okay.
Because I think I'm dying to see how people respond to all this too.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me copy and paste that in. And I think somehow, there we go. So click on that.
Okay, that'll go as an actual link. Okay, got it.
Great. Yeah, I think somehow it wasn't going through. And just as a quick reminder for all of you, if you're enjoying this video, press that like button. And great to see you, Lucia, and all of the teachers and students who are here. Remember, we've posted the links in the description. And then, Tom, I'm curious to see, as people fill that out, what kind of results we get. So yeah, we're getting some more questions. Guys, keep posting your questions for Tom in the chat, and I'll be answering as well.
All right. So as far as that goes, Joel is asking, is it okay if I only look at your AP Euro study guide pack, or should I look into information outside from class? Let's see. It looks like John might be. Oh, actually, he's talking on the. I'm looking at like the video version of that. Okay. So with that, as far as that goes, the more you know, the better off you're going to be. Okay. But if you're thinking about like, okay, what can I do for, the bare minimum or something like that? I do think that the Marco study guides, they've got some good stuff in there. Now, are we going to tell you print out 9 study guides for the units and you're going to make the score you want to make? I can't guarantee that. Okay. But conceivably, if there's somebody who knows how to write the essays and all of that kind of stuff, maybe. But at the same time, I would always say to get as much information from your teacher than you can. Now, one thing, James, this is exactly one of the reasons why I wanted to do a March Madness thing for AP Euro, because it does give you the opportunity, James, like, oh, I don't know this monarch, so let me run in there and Google and see what I think about this monarch. So as far as this goes, I think that this is, it's important. It's a great learning tool to do these brackets, because there are going to be people in the brackets that you don't know. And if, this is one of those things, like a lot of people say, what you don't know can't hurt you. But when you're taking the AP Euro exam, what you don't know can hurt you. And so you want to make sure if you see something like, oh, great. And actually with the philosophers bracket, I've actually got some like lesser known socialist and anarchist philosophers that show up in that honorable mention column on the sidebar in the course and exam description. I decided to put a few people like Mikhail Bakunin and Clara Zetkin and a few people like that it would benefit you to say, oh, let me go read about Clara Zetkin a little bit. Okay. So that's something. Now, also, one of my students actually did this bracket today. This was the last class before spring break. So I did this bracket with my AP Euro students. They gave me some help on that. And one of my students just has some kind of obsession with Madame de Pompadour. And she really wanted Madame de Pompadour on the bracket. So we were like, okay, I guess she was an innovator. She was somebody who was a big patron of the philosophe. So we said, you know what, we're going to put her on the bracket. So, it's interesting there. So with this, well, in some cases, so Lucia, whatever y'all want, really. I mean, this is one of those things when people are doing brackets, it's something that's fun, and it's something that I think is, it's fun, it's educational. A lot of times, especially, like I said, this is the class period before spring break. So that's something that I think is really important when we're thinking on those terms. Like the class period before spring break is always something that you want to do something a little lighter. So as far as this goes, let's go ahead and I think there are some people that need to work on their Roman numerals. Okay, I think that's one thing. Your Roman numerals, we've actually got 23% that had Louis the 16th over Louis the 14th. So I'm thinking that we must have a Roman numeral problem, okay? Now, this one is an 8th and 9th seed. Let's see how well my students seeded these monarchs. So Gustavus Adolphus versus Henry IV. This is 8th versus 9th seed. So we should have something kind of close here, okay? So it looks like Gustavus Adolphus is still in the lead here. Now, a father-daughter thing here, okay? So we've got Henry VIII getting 2/3 of the votes there over Bloody Mary. Father versus daughter, Catholic versus Protestant, okay? So we've got that. Frederick the Great, okay, Charles the First, y'all have beheaded this poor guy, okay? I mean, he's doing even worse than Louis the 16th there. I swear that's a Roman numeral problem. All right, y'all got to go take some classes at John's Classical School. And so with that, Victoria versus Catherine the Great, okay? So we've got here another 2/3 versus one, or wait, what? Okay, I need to figure out why they, this one just didn't try. Oh, you know what? I think I need to go. I messed that up. I didn't change the names there when I copied it, but we've got Victoria versus Catherine the Great. I think y'all figured that out. So I need to fix that. I will. All right. So Peter the Great versus Nicholas II. Okay. So that is that's a blowout right there. Okay. Peter the Great versus Nicholas II, a blowout. I think Peter the Great was seated too low. Okay. But the thing is, I honored what people said on Twitter and did the first four the way they told me. All right, Charles V, another father-son matchup. Now, we didn't do this on purpose, actually. I've got a lot of like father-son, and then in the philosophers bracket, you've got Jean-Paul Sartre versus Simone de Beauvoir. We did not set those matchups intentionally. We did all the seeds, and then I've been plugging them into the bracket. So Charles V versus Philip II. Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, is defeated so far, beating his son Philip II. Okay, and Charles II of Spain. Okay, that is just no contest. Okay, so Elizabeth I was very well seated. I mean, she's doing better against her opponent than even Peter the Great. But then again, her opponent is inbred and impotent and all of this kind of stuff here. Just any of these I words that, have somebody that's just not one of the greatest monarchs. Okay, so with this, Charles II of Spain. Okay, so this has been a fun little exercise. I'm going to just have to go in and fix one thing, but I'm going to be doing some more of this Euro madness. We will be doing some more of these as we go on. So with that, let's see. So yes, so Victoria. I just want to make sure to get that. Victoria versus Catherine the Great. Okay, so thank y'all for helping me to improve this tool here. And as far as emails, to the extent that anybody's, if you gave your email, that's something I'm not going to sell it to anybody. That's only going to be, if there are things that are directly relevant to the AP Euro exam this year. So just so everybody understands that. Okay, so nobody's email is going to be sold overseas or anything like that. So going from there, ladies and gentlemen, going from there, let's go ahead and let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up an SAQ. Okay, so we've been talking about the Counter-Reformation or Catholic Reformation. And so I've got an SAQ. Now, one thing that I've been talking about with my own students, I put this on Twitter yesterday, seemed to get a lot of traction there, that we need to be thinking of these as specific answer questions. Okay, like a lot of times I think the problem with calling them short answer questions is that we are thinking about we think about, okay, a short answer, but there is such thing as too short. Okay, like you're not expressing a complete thought. By the way, happy Greek Independence Day to anybody who's celebrating, which is the same day as the Annunciation. The Greek Orthodox Church celebrates the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary this day, which is commemorated here by Sandro Botticelli, the great Renaissance painter. So that is the day of Greek independence, 200 years of Greek independence. Remember Metternich and the conservatives conservatives weren't very happy about this right off the bat, but eventually Greece did become an independent country. Now, as far as that goes, now we do have a new video on the Cold War in contemporary Europe. There I am with the Berlin Wall. Wonder if anybody drew Marco on that. All right, so with that, yeah, just noting here, when we think about the short answer questions, okay, Dimitri, who is Greek, okay, we've got a Greek there replying there. So with this, we think about short answer questions. Think of them as specific answer questions, that you're including something specific. You're going to do a lot better on this if you go for a specific answer rather than to make this as short as possible. Now, that being said, it can be a couple it can just be 2 to 3 sentences. There's no short answer question that's going to take you more than 3 sentences to answer quite thoroughly. But remember that every SAQ item, it's either you get the point or you don't. And so the reader can have 3 possible reactions to looking at an SAQ. First of all, this definitely gets credit. Second of all, this definitely doesn't get credit. Third, let me think about this for a minute and figure out if this gets credit. Now, we don't want to put the reader in that kind of situation. We don't want the reader to have to puzzle out, like, does this get credit or not? Our goal is that we make an answer that so obviously and fully answered the question that it is no contest as far as that goes. So what we want to do here as we go into this SAQ set, so this is the Reformation and the Catholic Reformation specifically. So use the image below. Now, if you are taking the paper pencil, now we will be talking later on about how they're going to be modifying some of these things for the digital exam, but on the paper pencil exam, which from my understanding, the majority of students will be taking this year, this is going to be SAQ2. It's always going to be a visual primary source. Now, they claim it's the primary source analysis, but it's always been, when we use our inductive reasoning, looking at observation, empiricism, we see that it's always been a visual source. Okay, so we see here Bernini, the Ecstasy of St. Teresa, Church of Santa Maria della Vittoria, Rome, 1652. Now, note here, it's in a church, okay? That's something that I need to note here. Note where it is, because you can tell here some things about it. Okay, this is in a church. And so here we see the picture, but here's what I want to note here. It's not about the picture or the source. It's about what you know about the topic. And so start with the topic and then go back to the picture and see if it can be supported by that, because you don't want to think too hard. If this is unfamiliar to you, you don't want to think too hard about what's happening, because I actually know why. I'm not going to call this specific student out, but as I was reading SAQ responses, there was one response that said, this angel is attacking Saint Teresa. Okay, thought that Saint Teresa is under attack. Okay, and no, she is not under attack. She is in a fit of spiritual ecstasy. So here's the thing: describe one way in which the image expresses ideas popularized during the Catholic Reformation. So what you're going to think about here is, what were the ideas that were popularized and how are we seeing that? Okay, and so with this, as we look at this photograph here, and we're thinking, okay, what's an idea that was popularized during the Catholic Reformation? So new religious orders, the Council of Trent, the revival of Catholic spirituality. What can we see here? Okay, well, it has a spiritual look to it. So describe one way in which the image expresses ideas that were popularized during the Catholic Reformation. So going in here, and let's see, I'm going to go ahead and get this open here, and I will share this. Let me go ahead and put this in the Zoom chat, and then John will put this out there. Okay, so actually that's the comments. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that in there. Let's go into the okay. Oh, I'm going to have to stop sharing for just 1 second. All right, so let me go ahead and share this with y'all. This is a Google document that I'm working on here, and so let's now share the screen again. All right, there we go. Okay, so as far as that goes, we see describe one way in which the image expresses ideas that were popularized during the Catholic Reformation. Now, again, this is about, do you know about these ideas that were popularized? If you don't, you're not going to get this right. So it's not about the picture as much as what do you know about it. So, during the Catholic Reformation, okay, so the Catholic Reformation, Catholic reformers worked to revive Catholic spirituality. Okay. And the thing is, if you're on your way to making a 4 or a 5, especially, you should know who Saint Teresa is. Okay. So you would note here, in the image, Saint Teresa, is portrayed in the middle of an intense spiritual experience. Okay, so showing that this kind of experience is possible within the Catholic Church. Okay, now what I'll note here is that Protestant reformers, so Protestant reformers had claimed that a person could not have a direct relationship with God within the Catholic Church. Okay, so here's the thing, like, I'm not trying to be so short. Remember, you've got 40 minutes for 3 questions, or in that last section, 40 minutes for 2 questions. But with this, which is kind of whatever, but with this, you've got time. So when we segment this out, I always tell students 40 minutes for the SAQ section, which shave off 4 minutes to choose between whether you want to do question 3, question 4, familiarize yourself with the questions, all of that kind of stuff. Now, again, if you're taking the digital exam, you won't have a choice. But I say, okay, well, that means you've got 12 minutes per question, 3 parts per question, meaning that you've got about 4 minutes for each part. So give it 2 or 3 sentences. This is something that it would be undeniable. The reader looks at this and says, yes, this student has definitely answered this question. Okay, oh, oops, I want to keep that answer. Okay, so with that, and then somebody could also note during the Catholic Reformation, another answer here, new religious orders, were formed, and there were, existing orders, revived monastic. This is more of an advanced answer, but discipline. Okay, so Saint Teresa, was a reformer. Okay, so was a reformer, and helped to make the monastery, basically to restore, the monasteries to a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Okay, so something like that, where you're going in and you're giving something specific, showing that you know something about the topic. Now, again, they're also going to be kind of vague here. So we see here, describe one way in which the style of art used in the image. Now, you should be able to, because Baroque art is in the course and exam description with a major heading, mannerism and the Baroque. So you should be able to identify this as a piece of Baroque art to associate it with the Catholic Reformation, but also with the age of absolutism. So when we're looking at this, describe one way in which it was employed by European elites. Okay, now note they're not going to say absolutist, but the most obvious answer is going to be to show how absolutists are going to use this kind of art. Okay, so with this, we see here that after the Catholic Reformation, so absolute monarchs, saw, admired, use the grand Baroque style, in order to enhance their positions, and to create a sense of awe around them. So the Baroque, so the Baroque style And this is where we get into specific answer questions, okay? Can be seen at Louis XIV's palace at Versailles. Okay, so Versailles, which includes, which includes Baroque paintings and an extremely ornate hall of mirrors. Okay, and so another thing you could say is something like, in the Dutch Republic, because you've got the Dutch Baroque. Okay, so when we're thinking about this, now you can go to AP Euro course and exam description, which 2020, 2021, tomato. So did Rembrandt show up? Okay, so that's Northern Renaissance where they're going to put Rembrandt. Where else are they going to put Rembrandt? Okay, so we've got 18th century culture and arts. Interesting. So then let's see, go to the Baroque. Okay, so we look here, the Baroque, mannerism and Baroque art. So Bernini, Peter Paul Rubens. But as far as that goes, the main thing here I'm going to note is that you've got this Baroque style. Okay, but I could note here in the Dutch Republic. Okay, so we say in the Dutch Republic, wealthy merchants used Baroque art, art in order to enhance their social positions, by commissioning portraits. Okay, so we note here, since since Dutch merchants were Calvinist, they were not allowed to flaunt their wealth with their clothing or other, or with, with a lot of fine jewelry. Okay, so with, or with, or with a lot of fine jewelry. Okay, so since they were expected to dress simply. Okay, so so works of art, so so wealth could be shown off through works of art. Okay, so that's something that would be an acceptable answer. There's not just one answer to any of these SAQs, but the answer has to have something that the reader can sink their teeth into. And so then finally we see explain one reason why a Protestant would have objected to the image. Okay, so that's going to be the last one. Now, before we do that, let's go ahead and just take a quick look at our, Q&A, at our chat, whatever we call this. Okay, so we don't see anything like that. Okay, so Lucia, she approves of specific answer question. Now, how long does it take? You see where I'm typing, it's not really taking that long for me to type 2 or 3 sentences here to make sure I have this. But again, one of the biggest pitfalls I see with, especially with my own students, and that's not, my own students are a sample set. My own students are great, okay? But I see when you just tell them, here's a short answer question, they answer it as briefly as possible. I think that's kind of a human nature thing. Thomas Hobbes may have something to say about that. So here's the thing. When we explain one reason why a Protestant would have objected to the image. Now, there are a variety of answers here, okay? But this is, I'm just going to go into bullet points that you can think about how you're going to brainstorm. I would definitely spend a couple minutes brainstorming my answers. I'd write at least a couple of words down. So this is what I would do before I answer, okay? So say it's not, it's not in the Bible, okay? Protestants don't glorify saints, okay? It's expensive, okay? It's expensive. Luther would say, give the money to the poor, okay? Calvinists, okay? Calvinists did not, Calvinists did not believe in using images in worship, right? So using images in worship. You could even go into their iconoclasm. Now, another thing that we could note that might have even offended some Catholics, the sensual undertones, okay, so of the, of the sculpture, could be seen, be seen as offensive, okay? Protestants don't have monasteries. Okay, so when we look at this, so note here that off the top of my head, I have gotten like, 6 different responses, all of which, as long as it's defensible, as long as I can back it through specific evidence. So we could say here is, this image glorifies the monastic life, through Saint Teresa. Okay, so Protestants don't have monasteries. Okay, so monasteries, and their ministers can get married. Okay, now for another like just knockout punch here, remember we don't want to give the reader any kind of choice. We don't want to punch the reader or anything like that, but we don't want to give the reader a choice. We want the reader to say this is definitely getting credit. Okay, so during the English, so when Henry VIII, okay, so when Henry VIII, left the Catholic Church, okay, he closed all of the monasteries and sold their lands. Okay, so that is, and note how I'm expressing complete thoughts, complete sentences, and all of that. Okay, so the thing is here, and I could even combine some of these. Okay, so Protestants, would not have liked this statue because Saint Teresa is not in the Bible. Okay, so according to Protestants, Protestants, all Christian beliefs should come from the Bible. Okay, and we would note here Luther. We could even note, and again, I'm showing you be extra on these things. So Luther, if you have the information, don't let any information that's in your head not make it onto that paper. Okay, so Luther called this sola scriptura. Okay, okay, so and then you can even do this where I say here Protestants also don't tend to glorify saints the way that Catholics do. Okay, so we see here that so we see here that that is so limiting their limiting honors to Jesus and the apostles. Okay, so as far as that goes, we're expressing a few thoughts, and one thing we want to talk about when they score these things, okay, they do it based on what's called positive scoring. They don't mark anything wrong. It's about whether you said something right. So it's not, you don't have to be afraid that if you write too much, okay, that if you write too much, then that's going to get you into trouble. And this is where we're kind of about to wrap this up. If John wants to come in and kind of chime in on that, because we're getting to kind of a test taking thing, but this is something that when we think about positive scoring, if you put a couple of things on there, make sure everything's well described and everything, but they're not going to say, oh, you said something wrong, you don't get the point, even though you also said something right. What are your thoughts on that, John?
I think that, first of all, that's very important to know for people, and it fits into a bigger picture that we emphasize. You've done it. You've emphasized this in your videos. We've done it on ours. You're not going after 99% of the total points you can get on this. You really have to strategize. You want to score a perfect 5 on this exam. You're getting around 75+% of the multiple choice. You're getting most of the points. You're getting something like a C+ to get a 5. To pass the exam, quote unquote, at a 3, you're getting 58% correct. So you really need to lower that bar for yourself. You take a practice test in a week and you feel like, I'm behind, I'm not doing well, I made a mistake, and you're beating yourself up out of the exam, you're thinking about it wrong. This is not the SAT. This is not an exam in your class. And I think, that difference is critical to how you're going to study for the next few weeks and how you act on test day, why you shouldn't be freaking out. That's my view. Tom, I would notice actually there are a couple of comments that just popped up into the chat section.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had a chance to see those.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I'm looking at myself on screen, and it has me leaning in on the small print. But yeah. So one thing I would say here is that Kat, unless you're directed to build on another answer, my advice on the SAQ would be that all three should be unique. You don't want to tie in C to A. You would rather, in 9 times out of 10 at least, you would rather C be fully distinct from A. So that's one thing. I'm glad you said that, because that's a piece of advice that I would give. Read all three parts of the question and jot down your approximate answer just in a couple of words before, kind of like what I did with those bullet points. Now, you don't have to do 6 of them. I was just demonstrating. But with that, you want to think about, I'm going to use this for A, this for B, and this for C, and make sure you're expressing to the best that you can 3 distinct thoughts. Now, with this, PK, we really appreciate you showing up. And so with this, connect that to St. Teresa. Yeah, that I think that here, that Charlotte, that is something that is very valid. If you're thinking about A, thinking about this is the Catholic. So if you said, like, yeah, the affirmation of Catholic doctrine, that, in the ecstasy of St. Teresa, by choosing St. Teresa rather than the Virgin Mary or the apostles, like, that you could argue, for the purposes of this test, that they are intentionally choosing someone who is not in the Bible in order to show the Catholic belief that the saints are important and you don't have to be in the Bible to make an important contribution to Christianity. So I think that's great. One of the biggest things is you don't want to limit yourself here, that there's no limit. The only thing, like at the reading, readers are told correct responses can include, okay? They're not given a list that says these are the only correct responses. So anything that the reader looks at that and says, look, that is an answer that is backed by evidence and the evidence is correct. Keep in mind, this is another at-home reading, so the readers have access to Google and all that. If you say something obscure, and they can go in and they can make sure that it's backed up. So yeah, that would be an excellent response there, that is a defense of the Catholic practice of honoring the saints. I think that was an incredible take.
Yeah, and I think, Tom, I love the encouraging tone that you're taking with all of this, which is, you and I are both teachers. I've never been an AP Euro reader, though, and you're saying, hey, at the tables or and the digital format, we almost act a little differently. In our classes, we want our students sometimes to give us back those answers. On the exams, it's kind of anybody's game. Now, a couple things, because we are at time, I wanted to share a couple things real quick. One is we have a lot of links that we have provided for you. I'm just going to run through those real quick. First, Tom on his channel, Tom Richey, easy to remember, easy to spell. Some people leave off the E, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, some people like to put a T in there.
But some people spell us as macro learning. I forgive them. So to go to his channel, I put his playlist for AP Euro here. Tons of great content for you. I also put that link. Oh yeah, this is this survey. This is a link to that slide deck I showed at the beginning, everyone, to the College Board's website. We've got the link to our free study guide pack for AP Euro. All of them are consolidated on this page that Tom was showing a minute ago. You can get a lot of material there. There's also, we've got a Euro playlist on our channel. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and do that. Also, I want to point out real quick, we've got a course. It's called Student Support. What's really great about this is you get a couple of full-length practice tests, and then you get feedback on your essays, exactly what you got out of each point, what you did well, how to improve. And so this link is in the description as well. The other thing I want to share real quick, Tom, you and I were talking about TikTok the other day. And here's me looking like a clown on TikTok. I don't know if you know this, Tom, I did a TikTok where I said, hey, do you have a great AP teacher, an awesome AP teacher? Put their name in the comments. Tom, we got 5,000 names. So we got a lot of shout outs. Here are some of the ones for AP Euro. And I recognize a couple of these people like Joyce Cruz. But I don't know if you noticed any other names on this list of AP Euro teachers that students from all around the country were shouting out on the Marco Learning TikTok. But we want to, oh, and you're muted.
Yeah, there are some great ones here. I mean, right off the bat, we've got Miss Cruz, Miss Snyder, Mr. Goot, in Virginia Beach. Yeah, we've got a lot of great teachers on here. So that's good that they're working on that.
Yeah, so again, check us out on our social media accounts. Tom's got great updates he's providing on his YouTube channel, on his Twitter account, on his Instagram page. And of course, we're posting a lot of our news right on Instagram and TikTok. So thank you everyone for joining. Tom, were there any other parting words or piece of advice that you wanted to give to the group as we wrap up?
Well, I am on, I'm on YouTube as well. So I'm here, but I'm also on my own channel. Like John said, my name is Tom Richey, and so if you're not already subscribed, make sure you do that. And yeah, looking forward to making this journey with y'all. And we will have some more of these sessions coming up in April. So it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, John.
Great. Thanks, Tom. And guys, if you haven't yet, check out Tom on his channel. Not this coming Monday, but future Mondays, he's going to be going live for AP US and AP